Let's talk about some of today's bullets. Nosler is unequivocally among the best bullet companies available today. And it all started back in the day when Mr. John Nosler, who has since left us, had some horrible bullet failure on a bull moose. His 300 Holland & Holland was just pushing a traditional lead core copper jacket bullet at a velocity too high to ensure penetration. So John did us a favor by creating the Nosler Partition. What he did is took a copper rod and drilled out the front and rear portions, leaving a partition of copper in the middle so that it got good expansion on the front end, but the rear core of the bullet continued for fantastic penetration. The Nosler Partition was one of the first premium bullets available on the market, and it's still one of the best. I've taken my best New York whitetail with one, and it literally dropped him in his tracks. But they weren't done experimenting. We have over here the famous Nosler Ballistic Tip, which is a traditional cup and core lead bullet with a pointed polymer tip, which acts like a wedge for expansion. What this does is give us a boat tail, and I'll show you the example. It's got a beveled edge on the back, which is a boat tail, so that air can slip around it easier, giving it a higher ballistic coefficient and thereby flattening the trajectory a bit. But we've got fantastic expansion from this pointed polymer tip, which upon impact drives into the bullet and opens up the mushroom. Under certain velocities, at deer-sized game, I think it's a fantastic bullet, and I've used a ballistic tip for decades. The process of chemical bonding, maybe you've heard of the bonded core bullet, there's many on the market these days, adheres the copper jacket to the lead core. And what that does is it reduces the violent expansion of a traditional bullet. What we want to do is maintain that same profile, and you can see this is Nosler's AccuBond. It's with its signature white tip. It's a very similar bullet construction-wise to the ballistic tip, but that core is adhered chemically to the jacket. So it gives us a bullet being capable of fired from the Magnum cartridges, and it'll guarantee penetration on an up-close shot. In California, for certain, and I unfortunately see the trend going to other states as well, the use of lead core ammunition is in question because of, well, in California they've got the condors, which they claim to be poisoned by the lead cores of the bullets and the entrails of the animals we've killed. The answer is to use a solid copper bullet, and this is Nosler's E-tip. Solid copper doesn't have the weight that a traditional lead core bullet will, and if you put the two side by side, you can see that for the same weight of bullet in .30 caliber, that E-tip being solid copper is a much longer bullet than a traditional lead core bullet. What that does is do a couple of things for us as reloaders. It changes the bearing surface because the bullet itself is longer. So therefore, it'll generate pressures a little bit quicker, and it changes the load data. When you're loading for a solid copper bullet, such as Nosler's E-tip, Nosler recommends you use the very minimum powder charge for their corollary weight of bullet in a lead core and work up carefully from there. There's other companies that make solid copper projectiles, and they have their own set of data proven. Either way, I like Nosler's approach in saying, look, let's start it from the lowest and come up until we find a safe velocity and accuracy without any pressure signs. If you're after the biggest beasties on earth over in Africa, which, for instance, hippopotamus, Cape buffalo, or elephant, you want a solid or non-expanding bullet. This is Nosler Solid. It's a solid brass bullet. It will not expand at all unless it hits stone or concrete or some very, very hard bone. It's designed not to expand. What its function is for deep penetration. An elephant can have a honeycombed skull of over 2 feet. Or perhaps your Cape buffalo is at an angle that, you know, being such a heavy animal, a traditional lead core bullet won't penetrate. That's the function of the solid. And Nosler has some very good ones for you. For those of you shooting pistols, Nosler's Custom Competition is a precise match handgun. You know, I don't shoot a lot of 3-gun, but we shoot for bragging rights quite often. And I will tell you, in the 45 ACP and some other handguns that I enjoy, Nosler Custom competitions are fantastic bullets. It's a deep hollow point for great expansion, all match jackets, match weight of lead. So I'd give them a long, hard look. When you're loading Nosler bullets, I highly recommend the Nosler manual. That's another question I get quite often. Can I use the data from, you know, say a Hornady bullet or Barnes when using Nosler? And the answer, simply put, is no. Years ago, when all of our bullets were primarily cup and core, they had a very similar bullet profile and very similar bearing surfaces. However, these bullets we've just outlined and the varying lengths of bearing surface and construction techniques certainly warrant that each individual case be taken bullet by bullet, and Nosler's done you the favor within number 7 of doing just that.